Oh my gosh, so you get people to sign it? That's cool. Oh my god, that'd be rockety cool.
And you matching outfits for the back.
Okay.
Whoa.
I did 7 air race classics.
7.
Each one was a challenge. Months of studying the charts. We had to go through the charts. Lots of paper charts and we traveled over 2,400 miles for each race across the country in unfamiliar terrain and challenging weather. And we all flew our own planes. They weren't school planes, they were our planes. And we had 50 teams normally for the races, 2 pilots in each airplane with 1 current IFR pilot. It took 4 days. You had 4 days to do the race and complete it, and no cell phones. My first race was 1997, Boise, Idaho to Knoxville, Tennessee. The second one was 1998, Santa Fe, New Mexico to Batavia, Ohio. And 2000, Tucson, Arizona to Plymouth, Massachusetts. 2001, Gillespie Field, California to Sporties in Batavia, Ohio. 2002, Silver City, New Mexico, that was my favorite. Hampton Roads, Virginia. 2005, Purdue, Indiana to Purdue, which was a teardrop. We were at Purdue University, which was a fabulous place. We wanted for nothing there, and it was a teardrop from Purdue, Indiana to the Gulf, and then up to Purdue again. And after the race, we spent 3 days there. It was really a nice experience. The last race I did was 2014, Concord, California to New Cumberland, Pennsylvania. And then during COVID, they decided to have an air derby, where instead of flying from point to point to point, you had to make your own coordinates. And they were the north and the south, and you had to make your own plan. And it was really not fun. It was a mess by the time we figured it out.
So I have a question before you go on. So you went from California to Massachusetts. So that means that you had to fly your plane to California first. So when did you get the plane weight and balanced and weighed for the race? In Florida or in California?
In California.
And then did you have to go back to California, or did you stop the race and come back to Florida?
We started the race in California, flew across, and every race is 2,400 miles. It represents the west coast to the east coast, 2,400 miles. So each race, and it's always a different route, is 2,400 miles. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
So, going back, no cell phones at the beginning, 50 airplanes, and there was no weather briefer. We had to do our own. We did everything on our own. And we each had to file a flight plan at the beginning. And there were only landlines at the FBO. So everybody lined up at the FBO. We had to file our flight plan for every stop. Every time we stopped, we had to refile. It was not easy. Some of them didn't have fuel trucks. And at one point, we had to push our planes to the pump. You know, there's always something that went wrong. But we managed. And another part of it is the teams dressed the same. I mean, it felt kind of, there's some pictures of us. And even to the banquet at the end, we dressed the same. But when you were doing the race, it was fine while you were in the airport environment. But if you went to a store, you got into a car, you went out, and here you are, like you and your friend are dressed exactly the same. It's like kind of weird. Oh, before the race, we had to make hotel reservations. We have 4 nights on the race. So you had to pre-arrange all the hotels. And then, if you didn't use that hotel, you had to cancel your reservation.
Oh.
Right when you realized, as soon as possible, when you realized you were not going to take that room, you had to cancel it for somebody else.
Another payphone, right?
And on the route, you had to be on the ground at 5 o'clock every night. That was the end of your day. And you had a race to get on the remain overnight list, because whoever got to the remain overnight list first, that's the order that you leave in the morning, starting at 8 o'clock in the morning. So that was an advantage. Your sky was clear and you're out there if you're the first one. The Air Race Classics needed to know where everyone was. And I just explained at 8 o'clock in the morning, whoever was on the remain overnight list, whatever your airplane number was, that's the one you went out in the order that you landed. You lost race points if you forgot to take your name off the remain overnight list. There were rules and rules and rules. Volunteers were at each stop. They want to give you anything. And even the people that were conducting the race, they always had something for you to eat. They would hand you flowers, bouquets of flowers, and now, what do we do with these bouquets of flowers in our airplane? And they were beautiful. There was one woman who, her husband was a jeweler, and her husband made a necklace for each one of us, a silver necklace with a propeller on it. And we were given, each one of us, a piece of jewelry. It's beautiful. There were volunteers at each stop with water, chips, apples, bouquets of flowers, something special. One of the races used the post office. We were given a big sheet of paper, and every stop, there would be someone at this race for him to sign it, and he had a special stamp at each stop. It was really nice. We got the stamp. So at the end of the race, we had the complete race with the stamp and the signature from the post office. Something to save. The second race, we had bad weather. The race was called at Cape Girardeau, Missouri. We had to make our way to Sporties in Ohio. And that's the reason there has to be one current IFR pilot. You know, if you come to bad weather, you're out there in the middle of the country, you have to get to wherever they tell you to get to. And they have to know where everybody is to start. In 2002, we went from Silver City, New Mexico. We arrived on the top of a mountain. Silver City, Mexico was my favorite. We arrived, we approached this mountain that was really high, and so coming into the airport, which was just beyond that mountain, we wanted to find the lowest point on that mountain because we knew when we were going to be flying out of the airport, we were going to have to go over the mountain, and we wanted the lowest point. If you were in an airplane that didn't have the ability to go over that high mountain, you had to go the long way around. Luckily, we found the saddle, we found the low part, and then coming out of that mountain, we had to fly down to the airport. It was not very far away, but New Mexico. That was really interesting, if I can find out where that was. Silver City had abandoned Indian cave dwellings. It was a really interesting place, my favorite. It had open copper mines. We didn't know, flying over them, I don't know if anybody's seen a copper mine. You have? They had dustbusters on the runway and the most hospitable people. The people in town had each of the flyers. There were 100 of us. They split up 4 to a house, and they made dinner for each group of pilots in their house, and they accommodated everybody, which was really, really nice. And they all came out to the runway to see us off. And then once you're on the ground at any of the races, your plane is impounded right then and there once you get to the airport. Slower planes, I explained, had to go around the mountain, and it would take a longer flight, and you're going to use more fuel and everything else.
I have a question. Did they impound it for security reasons? To keep people off of it, make sure nobody's touching it? Yeah, that's good.
Okay, we were number 1 to be flagged off at the start. And I pushed the throttle, and the plane started to turn to the left. Now we were going to be number 1 to be flagged off, which was a great advantage. But here I am pushing the throttle, and I can only turn this way. I couldn't go out to the runway where the flag is. And then I pushed it the second time, did the same thing, and then I heard, "Move out of the line." I go, "No, this can't happen. We're in first place. This can't happen." So I grabbed the trim wheel, pulled it really hard, and released whatever was holding it back.
Maybe a stick or something?
Huh?
A stick in the rudder or something?
I don't know. I don't care. It went. Purdue University to Purdue, I explained, was a round trip, a round robin, where it was a teardrop. We went all the way down to the water, to the ocean. And it was a huge airport. Lots of young people all over. We had everything we needed. I mean, Purdue is a fantastic place. It has Amelia Earhart Museum with everything. Everything is there. That race touched 13 states. The temperature was 100 degrees. And when we got to Shreveport, Louisiana, the cafe at the airport had a sign. It said, "Free lunch to all racers." Then back to Purdue for 3 days. At the banquet, it was mandatory. Every banquet at the end of the race, you must be there. You must spend so many hours listening to all the speakers, listening to everything that went through. And not until the very end of the banquet do they tell you who won. So we listened to speakers, went through leg prizes, and the very last thing at Purdue was, I heard, 3rd place, 2nd place, 1st place, and it was our team.
Woo!
that you were first, or was it a complete surprise?
Surprise. And this is what you get. You get a medal and $5,000.
Ooh,
Wow.
very nice.
Wow.
What was your entry
fuel
fee?
costs?
What was the entry fee to the race?
What was the entry? It was all different, I guess.
It's around
For all the, do you remember that?
$450?
Oh,
$450 to enter, but by the time you're done, you each spend about
Back the money you spent on fuel, the prize money, or no?
Yeah.
So finally, Sophie and I were the winner. And as soon as that was announced, I turned around and the whole room was empty. Because they were sitting there for the banquet and all the speakers and everything, and everybody couldn't wait to get out of there. So it was empty. We made our pictures. They were in the Smithsonian Air and Space magazine. And I was so excited to look for the magazine because it's not easy to find. And when I finally found the magazine, I was so disappointed. I didn't even want it. The photographer requested that we do not smile.
Oh.
So here we are.
Why? What's the point?
I don't know. I didn't argue with her, but she said, don't smile. So here we are, almost a centerfold, and we're all looking like not too happy.
Oh.
Anyway,
Aww.
the last race was in 2014. It was the last one for me. We left North Cumberland, Pennsylvania, with another race plane. So there were two of us that were headed, two planes heading out to California. Of course, they were 99s. We were 10,000 feet, 10,500 with oxygen canisters. This is what we use in our plane. I don't know if anybody's ever seen this. They're pretty cool. I'll pass it around. This race, the one in California, was high altitude. We went through the mountains. Anyway, we had bad weather, and we had to make an IFR landing in Scottsbluff, Nebraska. We were 4 women in poor weather, no car, no rooms. It was a cattlemen's convention and graduations in this little town, and so we went to look for a room, and there were none available
Oh.
because of the convention and the graduations.
So what did you do?
Well,
Sleep in your plane?
this one,
No.
there was one room, and we didn't really want to stay there. It was like in the basement someplace, and it was not very, very nice. So somebody made a suggestion that we wait till 6 o'clock when all the reservations are in, and there's somebody that doesn't take their reservation, or have a cancellation. So that's what we did. 6 o'clock is the deadline. Sorry, we took the room. All 4 of us were in the room for 2 days. Because the weather was so bad we couldn't even take off. So we're back in the nice hotel, and all 4 of us took the room. We all agreed we would not have slept in the other hotel. One night turned into 2, and it was smooth sailing to the coast. At Concord, the airplanes were inspected, mandatory briefings, safety seminars, and on the last day, we were told to change our route. After departure from Concord, California, we were to fly directly over Travis Air Force Base. They didn't like this. The lady I was flying with was Mary Wonder. Some of you here probably know her. She's a retired Philadelphia air traffic controller. And she argued with the Air Force. And The reason she did not like this is because there were many first timers in this race, and you would have to change frequencies. Travis Air Force was not very far from where we were taking off, so there was a lot of things going on, plus 50 airplanes in the same airspace. So she argued with them, and Mary won.
Yay, Mary.
She hashed it out with the Air Force, and she won. Each of the planes in the race has a spotter, a spot tracker. So the Air Race Classic knows where everybody is. They can, in fact, you can go on the Air Race Classic now and watch where each of the planes is and how they're progressing with the race, which is really neat. Air Race Classic could tell where each plane was on the course, who went off course, who landed at airports not on the course, and tough weather challenge. It became cold, had freezing rain, mountain obscurity, and on departure, when we left Norfolk, Nebraska, the controller told us, after 10 minutes, look down to see a devastating twin tornadoes. I've never heard twin tornadoes before. 2 people were killed, and this was right after the takeoff, and we were going to be going right over it. 47 airplanes took off at the start. 16 were unable to make it to the terminus before the deadline. The weather was so bad. But that's some of what happens. These are pictures of New Mexico with the cave dwellers. You've seen those? It was really an interesting place. So that's basically what air racing is. We used our own airplanes. Had a lot of fun. It was good.
Woohoo! Thank you, Marilyn.
So the very first air race, because I've got the video that breaking through the clouds. Those women every night had a banquet at every town, and you lost points if you didn't wear your gown and you didn't show up.
Points off for everything.
Yeah, is it still like that? Oh, wow.
Well, I mean, they have to keep track of all these people. They're in the air, you know, it's all kinds of. Each race is a different terrain. You're high, you're low. I almost ran into an ag plane once. You turn around, there it is. You're low, kind of scooting through, and so is the ag plane. Surprise.
So how about personalities in the cockpit? So did you ever have any arguments or bad?
I didn't. No, we did
Anything
not.
that good. That's good.
But before one of the races, we were sitting together having a cup of coffee, and one of the ladies took her coffee and went,
At you?
no, not at me. So the lady that flipped the coffee got to race. The lady that got hit with the coffee, she wouldn't race. So she got knocked off, but the lady, it was not fair.
Oh,
That
wow.
was really, really bad.
Wow.
Quick question. All the races you did you do it with the same partner in the plane, or was
No,
it different every
different.
single one?
The last 2 I did with the same lady.
So are you the one with the instrument rating? No, the current. You have to have a current instrument rating. So, wow.
Because you never know where you're going to end up.
Right.
What an inspiration.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. She's
That
fantastic.
was fun.
Yay.
Well, anyway, so,
Thank you, Marilyn.
that is the end of of our meeting.
Thank you.
Yay.
We may know this lady.
Please,
She,
Who's her?
Lynn O'Donnell.
Oh,
She was
that's
in,
Lynn.
she was in 2 of the races.
oh my God. Please stay around, socialize.